So in this video, I'd like to talk about guilt. I'd like to talk about what it is, why it occurs, and what we can do about it. I'm not going to reference a dictionary or anything like that. I'm going to make these sort of therapy 101 sort of videos really easy to digest. So in essence, guilt is, as you know, right? It depends on the level of guilt that one is feeling about something. It can be a little kind of niggling feeling, or it could be a real heavy feeling that weighs you down. And usually there's sort of like this sense of judgment that occurs. So it's almost like you've done something that you know you shouldn't have done, or you haven't done something that you really know you should have. That kind of sense. It's almost like a feeling of you've done something wrong, right? So I believe emotions communicate to us all the time. All emotions are communicating with us, whether we choose to listen or not. That's, I suppose, a separate issue. But guilt is there to tell you you've done something that's out of alignment with your values. And it's a moral compass. It's like a warning sign. And if you were to walk away with a mantra from this video, it would probably be guilt is the warning sign that tells you that there's a relationship here that is in need of repair. There's a relationship here that's in need of repair. So, right, and that relationship may be with a friend, maybe with a loved one, it may be with a family member, it may be with God, it may be with yourself, it may be with a stranger. There's a relationship here that is in need of repair. So I suppose in simple terms, what is guilt? Guilt for me is the resulting feeling from the juxtaposition means sitting side by side, of a self-image and an action that are in contradiction. So what do I mean by that? So let's just say, I've got a couple of examples. The self-image that you have of yourself is that I'm trustworthy. And the action that you commit is you've stolen. So those two things, you've stolen and you're trustworthy, sitting side by side, the resulting feeling, because they're in contradiction with one another, your action or non-action is in contradiction with your self-belief, the resulting feeling is guilt. Another example, the self-image is I'm a loyal person, and the action is you've cheated. You're going to feel guilty. Another example, the self-image is that you have of yourself is that I'm an honest person, and you go ahead and tell a lie. The resulting feeling is likely to be guilt. So how can you deal with guilt if that's what guilt is, and that's why it occurs? It occurs because there's an action or a non-action that is in direct contradiction with the self-image. Then what can you do about it? And if we think about it from that perspective, that it's as simple as that. Guilt is when an action or a non-action that you commit directly contradicts a self-image, a positive self-image that you have. Then you've got two elements, right? You've got the self-image and you've got the action or non-action. So what you can do is you can either do something about the action or non-action. Now, you can't go back and change the past, but what you can do is address it. You can take responsibility. You can take ownership, you can confess, you can give back, you can try and undo what you've done. So make amends, as it were, right? So for example, with these examples, if you've stolen something, you can give it back. If you've stolen something, you can pay the amount that you have stolen, or made sure that the person or place that you've stolen from receives the value of the thing that you've stolen back, for instance. If you've cheated, then that's a tough one. But I mean, you can ask for forgiveness. You can confess and ask for forgiveness. If you've lied, you can tell the truth about telling a lie, right? But so that you can either do something about the action or non-action, or you can do something about the self-image. Now, if you think like in NLP, there's a thing called levels of hierarchy, right? And let's just take this one notch up. The easiest way to do it really is to add one line in, that I'm human, right? So I'm trustworthy, and I'm human, and people make mistakes, like I just did there. So again, I'm loyal and I cheated, but I'm loyal, but I'm human, and humans make mistakes, and therefore those sitting side by side with each other, like for example, self-image that I'm a loyal person, but I'm human and I can make mistakes and I've cheated. It's not a direct contradiction, because there's some kind of compassion, there's some kind of forgiveness element in there, in that self-image. You know, I'm honest, but I've told a lie. Again, you can change the self-image to say I'm honest, but I'm human, and humans sometimes make mistakes. You can also, if we're talking about levels of hierarchy, you can actually go up one level. So from rather than being that specific, trustworthy, loyal, honest, all of those three things you'd think are virtues of a good person. So you could say, I'm a good person, right? So that's the self-image. I'm a good person. And if you've stolen, you've cheated, you lied, those aren't, you know, actions that a good person would commit. But if you take the example of someone like Robin Hood now, Robin Hood, he stole from the rich and he gave to the poor. The fact is he stole, right? But he still believed he was a good person, so he took it up one level. I'm a good person. And good people, in his worldview, good people look after people in need, right? And if that means that taking from people that have it in abundance and giving it to people in need, that's justified. So there's almost like some justification element into it. But I'm wary of that, but because I don't want to promote, well, it's okay to do bad as long as you can kind of justify it. It's okay to do something that contradicts your positive self-image, as long as you find some way of sort of wriggling your way out of it or making excuses. This is not what this is about. So step by step now, what can you do about it? So in simple terms, let me just cover this ground again. In simple terms, you can change your self-image. You can adjust it slightly, or you can change your action or non-action. You can do something about that. In a more kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 list, what you can do is, 1, recognize the feeling, because guilt is a very different feeling to feeling frustrated, or some people, you know, I suppose it's semantic. Some people may say it's the same category as feeling, I feel bad. You know, what do you mean bad? Or I feel ill. I mean, just notice the feeling, right? Be aware of the feeling, because some people can go into avoidance of a certain feeling. So the real feeling may be guilt, but the surface feeling might be, I'm eating a lot of food, or I'm withdrawing from everyone, because actually what I'm really feeling is guilt. So recognize the feeling, maybe even rate it out of 10 to discover how guilty you're feeling. Secondly is take responsibility. Thirdly, identify the guilt, and identify whether it's a healthy guilt or an unhealthy guilt. Now, healthy guilt, the distinction is this, that if you've wronged someone else or yourself, then it's probably a healthy guilt is there as a warning sign, right? But a non-healthy guilt is when really you're being a little unfair to yourself. So let's just say I've had, I don't know, 10 chocolates and I'm feeling guilty. I don't know, is that healthy guilt? Some people might argue, actually, yeah. If you're talking on the food kind of front, people say, yeah, that's a healthy guilt. I don't think that's a healthy guilt, right? If you're beating yourself up about something that really, have you done wrong? Have you wronged someone? And you're beating yourself up and you're considering that guilt, that's probably a non-healthy guilt. 4, consider what you need to change and change it quickly. Sometimes we know what we need to do and we take forever to actually do it. If we know we need to apologize, sometimes ego gets in the way. Sometimes we just can't get to do it because we're fearful of what the other person might say. If we just need to own up and ask for forgiveness, pride gets in the way. Look, if you've got to do something, discover what you need to change and change it quickly. Because the quicker you change, the quicker you'll be feeling good. So 5 is learn the lesson, accept your mistake and move on. There's so much to be said about learning the lesson, because if you haven't learned the lesson, then you're likely to experience a similar kind of thing again, actually. So learn the lesson, accept that it's your mistake, but don't beat yourself up about it and continue to beat yourself up about it. And just move on. Last but not least, be self-compassionate. And the most important thing really with guilt is no one feels it as much as you do. And quite often when we feel guilt, we beat ourselves up about it. Be compassionate to yourself. Be forgiving to yourself. Sometimes other people forgive us, we still don't forgive ourselves. And just practice self-love. So be kind to yourself. So once again, those 6 things. 1, recognize the guilt. Recognize the feeling. Rate it if you have to out of 10, say for example. 2, take responsibility. 3, identify whether it's a healthy or an unhealthy guilt. 4, consider what you need to change it and change it quickly. 5, learn the lesson, accept it's your mistake and move on. 6, demonstrate self-compassion, self-love and self-forgiveness. I hope that helps. Take care.